Howdy, folks, and welcome to Tune Scores. My name's Cary Nightingale, and with me, as always, is my trusty sidekick, Kevin Nebrich. Kevo, how you doing?
Just happy to be here.
Fantastic, and I hope you're excited because we're at the beginning of a very special episode. We're covering big songs by hated artists, and the two most hated artists we found were Nickelback and Justin Bieber. You'll hear that term, hate, quite a lot in this episode, so it's important for us to state outright that we believe firmly in fair treatment of musicians and fellow human beings. We encourage all of our listeners to act with integrity. We hope to lead by example by giving the upcoming songs as fair and even-handed an evaluation as we can. Even in songs that we don't subjectively like, we can usually find some component that is worthy of appreciation or even admiration. It should go without saying, but we'll say it anyway, that our ratings should be used as a helpful guide toward finding music you like and understanding the specific reasons why you like it. They should never be used as a justification to express hostility toward an artist or even a song that doesn't appeal to us or to you. Without further ado, Kevin, I understand you have a Nickelback song for us.
So I picked a song that I think everybody will be familiar with. I chose their song, How You Remind Me. So this song was released in 2001 as the lead single from their third studio album, Silver Side Up. And this song has earned Nickelback many awards and was purportedly played 1.2 million times on the radio between the years 2001 and 2009. So the vocal melody is really the focus of this piece, and for good reason. Unfortunately, the lyrics being sung are few in number, and they're also very repetitive. Out of the 59 lines in this song, 20 of them are unique. This means that more than half are repeated lines. What's more, there is no narrative here. This is an exposition of thoughts and feelings with little to no context. That's good in a way because more people can appreciate this song by identifying with it emotionally and believing that it means whatever they want it to mean. On its own, however, I feel that it never really explains the chorus, and it simply fails to tell a story. As far as performance goes, Chad has a decent voice, and it's really appropriate for this genre, and he puts a lot of feel into his vocals, which I appreciate. And earlier I mentioned that the vocal delivery is really the focus of this piece, and I feel comfortable assuming that because all of the supporting instrumentation has been dialed back to support it, leaving very little accompaniment. The guitars are playing the same 4 chords on repeat. The bass line is sparse and low in volume, and with the exception of that legitimately excellent drum fill, that is nothing if not memorable. The drums here sound tragically simple, even boring. Nickelback loses some points here for arrangement. And then finally, for appeal, emotionally this song misses the mark. No points for innovation out of me, and repeat listenability after having listened to this song several times is low. My final tune score for How You Remind Me for Nickelback is 5.4 out of 10. But Cary, I would love for you to take a listen and then kind of give me your feedback and see if I got anything wrong.
Well, sure, I'd be happy to. Give me just a moment and I'll be right back. Okay, thanks for that. I had a chance now to listen to How You Remind Me, and Kev, I think I agree with your ratings. If I had to sum this song up, I would say it sounds like an anthem that stands for no nation. I think it's very easy to sing along because it has the catchy hook, but like you were saying, Kev, it just doesn't tell much of a story. It doesn't mean anything specifically. It's certainly interesting and it's certainly listenable now that we're 11 plus years removed from the decade in which it was on very heavy rotation. So that's interesting. I'm glad that I had a chance to go back and listen to it. And I think there are some things to appreciate in it. But I think I should probably tell you about the song that I selected, and let's see what we think of that. This song is Sorry by Justin Bieber. That's the title, not a commentary on its content. There's a 3-chord loop that runs through almost the entirety of Sorry. It's a flat 7 to minor 2 to 1 in G, so probably G mixolydian. It's not terribly inventive, but it fits for the melody and allows other aspects of the composition to shine. The rhythm is especially good because it's got a little syncopation going on, and it's well reinforced by the melody, which doesn't take a lot of leaps in pitch, but rather feels like an extra percussion instrument much of the time outside the chorus. Lyrically, the theme is one of intended reconciliation with a partner that's been disappointed by the narrator too many times. There are some really clever phrases used, like, I hope I don't run out of time, could someone call a referee because I just need one more shot at forgiveness, and the main hook, I know that I let you down, is it too late to say I'm sorry now? The story, however, is sloppy. In its inconsistency, the narrator says he needs forgiveness in the first verse, only to start sharing the blame in the pre-chorus right after saying he'd take all the blame if he needed to. And in its immaturity. The narrator tells his estranged partner that he's missing more than just sex, but goes into no further detail. What exactly does he miss about her? Has he learned, grown, or changed at all? This omission is the kind of thing that helps the lyrics appeal very broadly to the greatest portion of the public by keeping the content at the lowest common denominator. But there are many potential listeners who prefer a keener glimpse into the artist's soul, or at least the ability to vividly imagine the scene. Most of the vocals are whispered in order to better emphasize the rhythmic aspect of the lyrics, but when Justin reaches for the higher notes in the chorus, you can tell he's putting in some effort. It pays off. I would normally prefer a wider mix, but the intimate and isolated theme of the song is probably served better by a narrower mix like you get here, without much differentiation between what's going on in the left and right channels. The synth trumpet is sweep-panned every time, which would be a nice treat for the ears if it didn't sound so much like a synth trumpet. More annoying was that copy-pasted female vocal melody that starts most sections of the song. While the deep emotionality of Sorry is sorely lacking, it features an excellent performance, an interesting vocal melody, and pretty strong production. It's let down primarily, in my opinion, by the lyrical theme. Because it's aimed at the masses, there's little to offend, and it's easy to see why the song has billions of impressions on YouTube alone. But if anyone started playing this on an outstretched boombox in my driveway, I'd probably call the cops. I rated Sorry by Justin Bieber at 6.6 on the tune score scale, but Kev, I would love to hear your thoughts on it if you'd like to take a moment and give it a listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said. It's really catchy. The performance here is great. Like it's a very fun song. But I think you're right. I think you should have titled this "Sorry, Not Sorry."
I think that's a fair assessment, Kev. I appreciate you giving this song a chance, and thank you for bringing the Nickelback song back to us. That said, I think it's time for a short break. This one's brought to you by The Road Less Taken, because you never know what you're missing until you go out of your way to go out of your way. We'll be right back. Howdy, folks, and welcome back. I think this is a great opportunity for us to explore that topic of hate as it relates to Nickelback and Justin Bieber and maybe even other artists. Kev, why do you think that some people derive pleasure from these artists while others derive pleasure from hating them?
Whether or not people enjoy the content that these acts provide, they are still creating something, which is nothing to shake a fist at in and of itself. You and I both know how difficult it is to create something from nothing. And some people are going to like it. That's the hope. And some people, unfortunately, are not going to enjoy it. And for these two acts, popular music, unfortunately, is inescapable. You hear it everywhere you go. And when you can't escape something, you're bound to have an opinion on it, one way or the other. When I was listening to the Nickelback song, I also looked through some videos online that I found of why people hate the band in particular. And some of the common complaints about their songwriting, I came across a bunch of words: derivative, formulaic, commercial, overproduced, manipulative, insincere. Those were big ones. There was some complaint about their lack of growth as songwriters as they progressed. There were also complaints about the band itself or its members, that they don't deserve their level of fame, or that their demographic is casual listeners or people with poor taste. And then a common one was that Chad Kroeger is a fucking weirdo. I thought that was good.
Well, I don't know if most of those are necessarily good justifications or even rationales, but if they are closely held opinions by certain parts of the population, not too much that we can do about it. But I think it's important for us to try and go a little bit deeper and give a fair shake. Now, I think based on what I heard from How You Remind Me and a few of the other Nickelback songs that I listened to in preparation for this episode, as well as the ones from Justin Bieber, I think that in Nickelback's case, there is broad appeal. It is anthemic, a lot of their music. It is arena worthy. I was thinking, the chorus to How You Remind Me, it might not make sense or it might not resolve by telling you exactly how he gets reminded, but it sounds pretty goddamn good when you've got 20,000 rabid fans screaming it at the top of their lungs in a sports stadium. And I think that's the type of music. But that can come off as disingenuous, I think, to some listeners. To me, I think it does as well. I also noticed that broad appeal with Justin Bieber. And I think the reason, though, why he tends to be on the receiving end of a lot of contempt or vitriol on the internet and in real life, too, probably, is because of his behavior, his public image. He's done some fairly despicable things, made insensitive or racist remarks, flashing his money, things like that, things that generally provide for a bad look. I think especially in his earlier career, it seemed like some of that hate or vitriol was related to maybe his image as a child star, although I don't think that's a reason why anyone should ever hate anybody else, not just because they're a kid. Kids are supposed to be protected, right, Kev?
I would hope so, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that was necessarily the case in Bieber's early career. I think a lot of that vitriol stemmed from early success. There's some jealousy that goes into that. The songcraft maybe was not as strong then, and really probably wasn't either in the 2017 or 2018 song that I reviewed in Sorry. But I think there's always room to grow. Because, Kev, you mentioned one of those things is Nickelback was perceived as not growing as songwriters. Well, I think we're seeing that Justin Bieber is maturing as a songwriter. Hopefully as a human being, too. I think that'll be a good reparation of his image. But I think it brings up a good point. Who are some other artists that seem to be unjustly hated?
I don't know about unjustly, but probably. But I've heard complaints most recently about Weezer, Green Day, Imagine Dragons. Back in the day, I remember middle school people getting publicly shamed for liking Weird Al, Blues Traveler, Green Day again. One of my teachers mistakenly tried to introduce us all to the Stray Cats and immediately regretted it. And I remember in high school a kid getting called out for liking Dave Matthews Band. So this has been going on since I've been around, so for a long time.
Maybe even before that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I think I've heard about a lot of those artists being on the receiving end of what is probably unjust contempt. A few others that I think I've heard about are Marilyn Manson. He's got that shocking image. The Dixie Chicks made the mistake of having an opinion and sharing it. How about this, Kev? Since I think a lot of this hatred, whatever we're talking about with these musical artists, a lot of it has to do with success and whether that success is perceived to be justifiable or earned or not. So, what would you do if you became successful and then subsequently reviled?
Change my name, move to another country, run away. That's a tough one because that's the hope, right? You want to write music and you want people to recognize you. But what if the thing that you do gets you recognized and then immediately people turn on you? But the thing that you're doing makes you a lot of money. That's a tough choice to make there.
I think that's the real issue there. Having your priorities straight. Is it worth it to you, to your pocketbook, to be successful, but also successful in a way that others find contemptible? I would hope that most people, most artists who find themselves with the great burden of success, because I think that it could be a burden. I wouldn't know, I'm not successful. But I think that if you find yourself in that place, probably will have to struggle regularly with that balancing act of, do I care? Is this valid criticism? Is it something I can change? Is it something I would want to change? It could be your image. It could be your character. It could be your musical output. Some of those things would be easier to change than others. But I don't think any of it would be that easy, because even musical output, you become successful based on a fan base because they probably like something about your style or your genre, the way that you go about it. So if you change that, you lose that first fan base. I think it's a sticky situation.
And I think it should be said that, you might find popularity having a certain style. And then if you find that, most people don't like it, maybe your fan base does, I think that it's a good challenge for a songwriter to try to change people's minds, try to get them all on track. Maybe keeping some things to appease your fan base that they like, that you approve of, that you think is important or an integral to your work, and then maybe changing other aspects to try to broaden your fan base and make more people like your music. At the end of the day, you're the one putting your content out there. I think that you should be happy with what you write, first and foremost.
I think that's probably lesson number one. And lesson number two is make sure you have a good public relations team. So, Kev, I'm thinking about Nickelback. A lot of the criticism about them as a band or human beings is about the content, the music, and how it's bland, generic, manufactured. Whereas with Justin Bieber, it's about image. People don't like him as a person, or they didn't, or won't until he grows up, if that's still in the process of happening. Which would you rather, Kev? Have people hate your music but think that you're a fine fellow, or just hate you but love your music?
Well, preferably neither, and hopefully not both. That's a tough one. You can always write better music. You can put more effort into something, but if people don't like you genuinely as a person, that's a much harder climb back. So I would say maybe I would love it if people hated my music, and then I could turn that around. How about you?
Probably the same. I don't think that I'm necessarily the kind of guy who goes out seeking approval, but I sure do enjoy it. Speaking of, this is a great time to make sure you like the video and click that subscribe button. But I'm torn because I really don't want people to hate my music either, because I've been careful about curating what songs I've written, what lyrics I've written that make it out into the public. I've written some pretty trash lyrics in my day, but I've made sure to never release them out into the wild. I'm also, I'll be charitable and say, not a good singer. And I suppose I have got a song or two out there where I vocalize and I apologize. So that's a really tough one. I would hope neither. I would hope to just be universally beloved. But I think because that's something that's important to me, I would work very hard on my character, my image as much as I can, and maybe that's why I'll need a PR team, and on my creative output, and making sure that if I'm producing something that will hold up to my artistic vision, that I'm bringing in the right people to help me execute on that. If I can't sing, find a singer. If I can't drum, find a drummer. I don't own a saxophone. Well, there's probably one on Fiverr.com that I could hire for literally peanuts. I don't know. I'll have to go shopping later. So that's as close to an answer out of me as you'll get. But Kev, in the beginning, I talked about finding something in most songs that's worthy of appreciation. And I think it's especially important as we wade through the 50 million songs on Spotify that are competing for our attention and our love. So what do you think was appreciable or had merit about this episode's songs? Because there are definitely folks out there who like them. And I think we can see why.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the thing that these two songs really have going for them is their performance. And while I still think the rest of the band in How You Remind Me was held back intentionally in that particular song, I would be very surprised to find out that they weren't very talented musicians all around. These are really strong performers, really selling some lackluster material, and also the ability to hold their heads high despite the never-ending onslaught of flack in their direction is pretty admirable. Hate is a very strong word. And I would say that in this context, it's probably most aptly described as distancing language. So, Cary, let me ask you a question. How do you feel about this band who everyone in your world dislikes? Not an easy question to answer.
Kev, I also dislike
them. There you go. Yeah. It's a loaded question. It's your answer should be, I hate them. No nuance. Not their first album was okay. Not I really liked that single they had until I heard it 1,000 times. No, I hate them. I revile everything about their existence. But I think by saying I hate Nickelback, what you're really saying is I have good taste in music. You're complimenting yourself in a socially appropriate way, or at the very least sidestepping an overtly telegraphed social rake on the ground.
I think those are just words to live by, Kev. That's fantastic stuff. Now, I don't know if we're going to get that much more mileage out of this particular topic, but I think it may be worth an investment of our time in a future episode to go a little deeper and explore the separation of the art from the artist, and whether it's okay to still like certain songs, even though they were made by terrible, terrible people. I've got a couple in mind, but we want to give everyone a fair shake, and I haven't done a lot of legal research to figure out if the people I'm thinking of are really scumbags or not. But we'll see. Make sure you comment down below if you want to hear us discuss that topic in a future episode. As always, we invite and encourage you to give a listen to the tracks we reviewed today. They're on our TuneScored Tracks playlist on our YouTube channel. While you're there, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel and leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of our scores and critiques. Did you agree? Did we miss anything? Are there better songs that we didn't discuss but would have fit our theme? If you're an up-and-coming songwriter, that's also a great place to recommend one of your songs to be TuneScored. We had a lot of fun today, and we hope you did too. That's been Kevin Nebrich. I've been Cary Nightingale. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay sound.